Brothers and sisters, so we keep meditating on how do we become saints. So we've been speaking about humility, we've been speaking about docility, we have been speaking about our complete and utter need for God, recognizing the importance of sacraments, which we still have to speak about. But we spoke about in the last video too about love. Love is the essential condition for us to grow in holiness, because that's the life of God, and holiness is about growing in God's life, growing in union with God. And so love is the ultimate. Now, love holds within herself, you could say, all the other virtues and all the other actions, because the primary desire, the primary movement of our will, the ability in us to command things and to desire things, comes from love. And so love is the first movement of the soul, you could say, but it has to be ordered, it has to be educated with truth, it has to be guided by the light of the Holy Spirit. And so we know that Jesus showed us what true love looks like. And true love looks like sacrificial love. True love involves the going out of oneself, forgetting oneself, looking and concerning the image of God himself, being concerned with God and loving your neighbor. And when we do that, that's true love of self, and that's how we take care of ourselves in our truest way. That's how we are fulfilled. That's how we find freedom. And so we must be attentive to ourselves, and we have a duty to human development and integration. A few friends, we were speaking about this recently, the importance of human development and our integration. We have a responsibility to develop our humanity and to develop the gifts God gave to us, and that's proper love of self. But even in that will involve suffering and sacrifice, because to really look after oneself involves growing in virtue. It takes commitment. It takes the willingness, the firm decision to leave behind our lazy ways and to leave behind maybe our comfortable zones that we're in, to discover all that God has in store for us, and that requires great sacrifice. It requires true love for self in that way. If we are to love ourselves in the right way, which is to desire our sanctity, to desire that we too become saints, that means that we're going to ultimately want to follow the path Christ trod for us. And that brings us today to talk about the cross. We're Christians. Jesus said, unless you pick up your cross and follow me, you have no part of me, you have no part of my kingdom. And so the Christian is one who inevitably has to look at the cross and has to be on the cross with Christ. And only through that ability to embrace the cross, so the image then of our sufferings in our life, the trials that come our way, to be able to embrace it and with not just embrace it, but to love it, and and also to, in a certain sense, to really not shun it, but even seek it, to seek the cross, And this is something that is against our nature, because we prefer the consolations, we prefer the safe path, we prefer the easy way. But the Lord has said, no, if you take those ways, you'll never actually find joy. You'll never find meaning. You'll never find a heart full of love and a heart full of sensitivity, a heart full of compassion and all the noble things of life that make one truly fulfilled and in God. No, the way to real joy and to real life and to live with an intensity with Christ is through the cross. And but this doesn't mean that we don't seek joy as well. We have to pray for joy. Every Christian should symbolize joy as well, even in their suffering. And this is the art of spirituality. This is the path of becoming holy. We're trying to learn this, and that's where we rely on the gift of the Holy Spirit. We rely on good friends on the journey to encourage us to seek the path that Christ lay before us. And so one of the ultimate condition of growing in love is suffering with Jesus. And this is what produces the most amount of holiness in us, you could say, is how God conforms us to himself in the most incredible way, is through suffering love. And suffering on our end, love on our end, because we're sinners, will involve suffering. It involves sacrifice. It involves the pain of moving away from the disorders and giving up those false pleasures. That hurts. To choose the good and to be courageous, to pursue the good, to pursue the good of Jesus' commandments, to pursue all that he's asked of us. That involves suffering, and that involves being victims with him of love. And so it's holding the cross and accepting it, navigating it. But we have to, this is where it involves discernment. We do owe responsibility to, to pray for when we need healings, to pray to remedy family situations that are difficult and all these things. Absolutely, this is how we depend on God and how we show our honor of his omnipotence and his power by seeking these prayers. But we also, when it seems that he just wants us to bear the cross in these moments, if he hasn't lifted it, then we try to bear it with patience and joy, and this produces great holiness.